Hello, Aubrey. How are you today?
Hi, Lindsay. I'm great. I have a question.
Okay.
When you are traveling, do you ever visit historical buildings?
Yeah, I think I can be a bit of a nerd, and I like to go to museums sometimes when I travel.
Okay,
And
nice.
usually museums are in historical buildings, especially in small towns. So yeah, I do. Do you?
Nice. Yes, I do. I agree. I appreciate the architecture and I'll go to museums or old churches. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
interested. This question has been asked quite a bit on IELTS speaking. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely, guys listening out there, if you, when you travel, you don't, maybe do, or you can always lie, or you can be honest and say no and share
Mm-hmm.
why you don't,
Yes.
aren't interested in historical buildings. But this could also come up in reading passages or in the audio for listening exam. So that is what you will have today. We're going to
Yes.
have listening part 2 practice for you that you can
Okay.
complete along with us about
Yeah.
historical buildings.
So what do we need to know about listening part two, Aubrey? What is it like? What happens in listening part two?
Yeah, so the parts of the listening exam get progressively more difficult. Part 1 will
Okay.
be the easiest. Part 2 just slightly harder, and then 3 and 4 even more difficult. So
Mm-hmm.
part 2 will be a monologue, but about an everyday topic in a social context,
Mm-hmm.
whereas part 4 is a monologue for academic topics, right? So for example,
Mm-hmm.
this might be a tour guide explaining, a church, a museum, a building, or maybe it will be a presentation about a club, but it'll be just one person speaking for an extended period of time. Your
Mm-hmm.
mind can definitely wander in these
Oh.
monologues, right? So that's one of the hardest things.
Oh my gosh, staying focused. And I think it helps us to stay focused if we know what we expect to hear. We're going to hear one voice, like you said, giving information about something similar to a tour or talking about a club. Information based, it sounds like.
Exactly, right? But everyday
Okay.
topics, usually not something too academic. But
Okay.
yes, you need strategies, right? For
Yeah.
listening, you've heard this from us before. That's going to be huge to help you keep track of the audio, not let your mind wander. So,
Mm-hmm.
first, the first thing you're going to do is look at the questions and answers, and you're going to
Mm-hmm.
highlight keywords in those questions. You
Okay.
will hear these usually in order, and you want to be
Mm-hmm.
listening for those keywords.
Mm-hmm. And then you're going to make predictions, right, Aubrey? Can you tell us what that means? Making
Exactly. So
predictions?
when you
Yeah.
read these questions, or if it's a table with spaces, a chart or a map with blanks, there are a lot of options here for
Mm-hmm.
listening, part 2.
Mm-hmm.
But you will be making predictions. Are you listening for a date? Maybe a
Mm-hmm.
year, a noun or a verb. You want to keep an eye, you want to be predicting what you will hear in the
Mm.
audio that will go in that blank.
This goes such a long way. We call this opening your brain box, and it works for everyday language comprehension, but it especially works for IELTS, Aubrey.
Exactly. So we will show you, we have questions 11 through 16 of an exam here, right? 1 through 10
Okay.
was probably part 1. Now we're in
Mm-hmm.
part 2. And these are multiple choice questions where the instructions say choose the correct letter, A, B, or C. And we're
Mm-hmm.
going to go through these questions and talk about what are the keywords that we would underline or highlight
Okay.
if you're taking the computer-based IELTS exam, and what
Mm-hmm.
predictions could you make? So let's do the first
Okay.
one, Lindsay.
Yeah. So the first one, again, number 11, what was the building originally used for? Yeah. So what are the key words here, Aubrey?
Yeah, so keywords originally used, right? And it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily going to be those words, but maybe a parallel expression, a synonym, something that tells you that this is what the building was for in the first place initially.
Mm-hmm. And so predictions, what are we listening for? What do we think we're listening
Yeah,
for?
it likely would be a noun, right? Maybe it was
Okay.
originally used as a church, as a
Mm.
museum, right? It's probably going to be
Hmm.
some kind of noun, but it also could be an event like weddings, maybe, right? So you're opening
Right.
your brain box. What could, a building have been used for in the past?
And it's just a very simple two-step process that happens quickly, but it's so key and it's so important. Okay.
Yes. And you're going to
Yes.
glance over the options. Here, the options are a library, a post office, a town hall. So you
Hmm.
know that it's going to be one of those 3. Keep in
Okay.
mind, you might hear all 3 in the audio. So you can't ignore everything else as soon as you hear one, right? But this
Hmm.
helps you also know that, okay, one of those things this building was originally used for. And when you hear that information, your brain is going to pick it up.
Excellent. And then number 12, the next question, when did the building become a museum? So what would we consider to be the key words here?
Yeah, so when, which tells us we're looking for a date, likely.
Yeah.
And then become museum. So, right, it's at some point, it was something else. It became a museum. It started being used as a museum. So, you're looking for some kind of parallel expression about that.
Yes.
And our prediction here is it's probably a date.
Yeah, and the possible answers are 1965, 1972, and 1985. So we have a chance to scan those and know what the possibilities are.
Yeah, this is one thing that multiple choice questions really help you predict because you immediately see those dates. Okay, I'm listening for a date and it's going to be one of these three. Keep in mind, you might hear all three dates. So you're listening for the date that this building became a museum.
Well, that's where the keywords come in, right? Become a museum. Yeah,
exactly. Good. All right. And our next question, what can visitors see on the first floor? So what would be our keywords here?
Keyword here, I guess, is first floor because there's going to be multiple floors and we need to know we're talking about the first floor.
Exactly.
Super important.
And this is tricky because in different cultures, in different countries, there are different words to describe the first floor. And so it might not necessarily be first floor, right? In the States and a lot of English-speaking countries, we might say ground floor for the first floor. So that's another thing to keep in mind. It might not actually say the words first floor. So open your mind. Keep in mind that it could be a synonym or a parallel expression.
Yes, I love that. And think about what is sometimes located on a first floor, right? And our options here, we can scan our options. It's going to be local artist work, rotating exhibits, or permanent collection.
Yeah.
So what does our brain box say, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And this helps that, you don't have to think, could it be lobby, gift shop, all of these other things that might be on a first floor because you have these three options. You want to quickly glance through them. You don't have a ton of time, but you're skimming this, you're scanning this to make these predictions so you know what to listen for.
Yeah, so it's kind of like we're combining the predicting stage with scanning the answers, right?
Exactly.
We're kind of combining that. It's like one step in a way.
Yeah, because as we look at our possible answers, that is how we're predicting what we'll hear because we know it's one of those three.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, number 14, what is the current temporary exhibit about? Okay.
So our keywords here are temporary exhibit. And then the options, local artists, maritime history, or ancient tools. So we know it's going to be one of those. We're listening for a noun. Remember, always keep in mind, it might not be those exact words, but once you hear that we're talking about temporary exhibits, non-permanent exhibits, any of the ways that could be said, then we're looking for one of those three.
All right. Then we move on to number 15. Where can visitors take photos? Our keyword here is photos, photographs.
Photographs, pictures, yes. And the options in exhibit halls, in the cafe, or in the garden. So we know it's going to be one of those three.
Okay. And then 16, what time does the gift shop close? So here we're underlying as our keywords time and gift shop close. That contains the most important information.
Exactly, because there could be all kinds of times in this audio when it opens, when the museum actually closes. So you're listening to find out when the gift shop closes.
It's like we're priming our ears, right? And our possible answers are 5 p.m., 5:30 p.m., or 6 p.m. Okay.
Yes. All right. So we are going to take a quick break and we will come back and you'll hear the audio for this listening part 2 practice and then see how many of the questions you can get correct. We'll go through the answers to make sure you see why the different answers were correct options.
All right. Good stuff. Okay, Aubrey, before we get into actually reading the listening section, how much time what we just did, how quickly should that happen?
You have
on the
30
exam?
seconds to read a chunk of questions, right? A section of questions before the audio begins. So it's not a lot of time. You're reading, quickly underlining keywords. As you can see, this is a skill that needs to be practiced. If the first time you identify and underline keywords is on test day, 30 seconds is not enough.
No, absolutely. I mean, we just took a fair amount of time to do it, 8 minutes, I think. And so this has to be an enormous amount of practice using the strategies.
Exactly, right? Practicing reading these very quickly, skimming through, underlining keywords, getting that done in 30 seconds.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read the listening. So our listeners, guys, if you have a chance, you should sit down somewhere, pay attention to the listening, and then we'll go through the answers.
Yes.
Okay?
And I'll read the little bit of audio that you would hear before you begin. So yeah, just like you were saying, Lindsay, this is true listening practice. So see how many can get correct.
You got it.
You will hear a tour guide giving information about a historical museum.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Camden Historical Museum. My name is Lisa, and I'll be your guide for the next hour. Before we begin the tour, I'd like to give you a brief overview of what you can expect. The museum was first used as a Victorian-era post office built in 1885 and later converted into a museum in 1972. Since then, it has housed a wide range of exhibits highlighting Camden's industrial, maritime, and cultural history. On the ground floor, we have the permanent collection, including artifacts from the shipbuilding era and a replica of an 1890s general store. Upstairs, you'll find our rotating exhibits, which change every 3 months. The current exhibit focuses on local artists from the 20th century, and I highly recommend checking it out. Please note that photography is not allowed inside the exhibit halls, but is permitted in the outdoor garden. If you'd like to buy souvenirs, the gift shop is located near the entrance, and it's open until 6 p.m. Actually, my apologies. We recently switched to our summer hour schedule, and it now closes at 5:30 p.m. There's also a small cafe on the premises, which serves light snacks and drinks, perfect if you need a short break during your visit. Finally, we'll be meeting back here in the lobby at 12:15, so you'll have about an hour to explore on your own after the tour ends. If you have any questions during the tour, feel free to ask.
Excellent. Well done, Lindsay.
Well, thank you. I should be an IELTS announcer or something.
Seriously, right? Do some voice work. Okay, I'm excited to go through. Hopefully you were able to get all of these questions correct. Come back to the blog so that you can see the transcript of this audio as well as the questions. That will be a great resource for you, allearsenglish.com. And so, yeah, let's go through this. Number 11, what was the building originally used for?
Yes, and our answer here. Go ahead,
Aubrey. You heard first used, right? The museum was first used. So that having underlined those keywords, your brain should have keyed in that you were about to hear what it was used for.
Right. So originally connects with first. We're saying that's the same thing, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So our answer here is B, a post office. That is what it was first used for, originally used for. Okay.
Exactly. So hopefully you got that one correct. Number 2 here, number 12. When did the building become a museum? And if you listen to the audio, look at the transcript, it says later converted into a museum. So this is a parallel expression for became a museum. When something is converted, it begins to be used as that.
So your answer here would be 1972.
Exactly. All right. Our next question, 13. What can visitors see on the first floor? And as we anticipated, instead they said on the ground floor. So as soon as you heard ground floor, you know that means first floor.
Yes, that's a really important call out, Aubrey, that we need to be aware of those cultural differences. And they're almost like tricks, right? This is probably a trick or a trap that IELTS sets up here.
Absolutely. Right? This type of thing that might be different if you're learning English in the UK. This can every now and then come up where we need to know what they're called in different cultures in English-speaking countries.
Yes. So again, what can visitors see on the first floor? The answer was the permanent collection.
Yes, exactly. And then our next question was, what is the current temporary exhibit about? So in the audio, you heard rotating exhibits, which would be a parallel expression for temporary, right? If something is rotating in a museum, that means it's going to other museums and is temporarily in certain places. And the current exhibit focuses on what, Lindsay?
A, the local artist was your answer there. Yes. Love that.
And this will help if you did have a chance to quickly read those options. You knew that it was local artists, rotating exhibits, permanent collection, what was on the ground floor, or the temporary exhibit, local artists.
All right. And then the next one, number 15, where can visitors take photos?
Yeah, and so you have to listen closely here. As soon as you hear photography, you're first told what is not allowed. So you hear inside the exhibit halls. If you're not listening closely here, you might just hear that and think, bam, exhibit halls.
Another trick.
Absolutely.
There you go.
But it
They're
says
everywhere.
It's not allowed in exhibit halls, but is permitted in the outdoor garden. So you know the answer there is C, in the garden.
Gosh, we should do another mini course, Aubrey, on IELTS tricks and traps. They're everywhere. And they're all over the listening, right? We can see them in the reading, I'm sure. That would be a great thing to do.
There are so many, and they're used over and over by IELTS exam writers. We have these in 3 Keys IELTS. This is vital that you're aware of those very common pitfalls, those tricks and traps, because they reuse them. They're on almost every exam.
They do. They have a playbook, and we have figured it out. So that is included in our 3 Keys IELTS course. So just get into the course, allearsenglish.com/KEYS. 16. One more, Aubrey.
Yes, our last question. What time does the gift shop close? This is one of those tricks and traps that we see very often, where you're given the answer, said it's open until 6 p.m. And especially where this is the last question, students will often make the mistake of just marking that as the answer and then not listening to the rest, shutting off your brain. I've got all my answers. But IELTS does this a lot, where they'll change the answer. In the audio, you hear, actually, my apologies. We recently switched to our summer hours schedule, and it now closes at 5:30 p.m.
Good reason to never turn off your ears. Never stop listening. You're never done, right?
Exactly. There's always a chance that you'll be given an answer, and then the speaker will correct themselves and give you another answer. This happens all the time on IELTS listening.
Tricks and traps everywhere. This has been a great episode, Aubrey, that I feel like our listeners could take it as a starting point for a viable listening strategy for part 2.
Absolutely, right? It's not enough just to have strategies. You need to practice them. So we try to give you practice here on the podcast. We have a lot in our course as well. You need to be practicing these strategies so that you can do them in that 30 seconds, so that you can listen for these synonyms and parallel expressions and get these answers correct.
You got it. Any other final takeaway? I mean, that's really it, right? It's about knowing the strategy, knowing the tricks and traps, and then practicing and practicing and practicing some more.
Exactly, right? Every time you do a listening test and get all or most of the answers correct, you will build more confidence, right? And you'll be able to more quickly and effectively use those strategies.
100%. So if you love our style, our approach to IELTS, everything we're teaching you here, we learned from a former examiner. This is deep knowledge, deep expertise of the IELTS exam. Then hit the follow button right here on the IELTS Energy podcast, guys. Don't miss a single episode. We come out with 2 new ones every week. Right, Aubrey?
Yes, awesome. I will see you in the next one, Lindsay.
Great stuff, Aubrey. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.
You too. Bye.